Hello and welcome. My name is Timothy J. Miller, and this is the Chronic Pain Survival Guide podcast.
The opioid epidemic running rampant, in fact, claiming an average of 91 American lives every day. But what's worse, some doctors are cashing in on this epidemic, prescribing addictive opioids to patients that have not only they've never examined, but in many cases they've never even met them. I mean, it's all a ruse to make money off the patient's despair.
And when I started treating people with chronic non-cancer pain, I felt it was unethical and discriminatory to limit the dose of medication. And if I had known that the overdose incidence had increased dramatically the way it had, I would have moderated my approach.
Doctor, how could you have not known? All you had to do was pick up the paper.
Well, if the title of this episode didn't give it away, much of today's content revolves around the culture of overprescribing prescription medications. We also uncover why our doctors' prescribing practices are often influenced by several powerful forces, including greed. We hold Big Pharma responsible for enough greed to make anyone incredulous. And finally, we ask why the federal government and the media keep saying that 4 out of 5 new heroin users started their addiction with a prescription from a doctor. Moving forward, the next episode, episode 3 in this series, will cover the Harrison Anti-Narcotic Tax Act of 1914. It is important to be familiar with the century-old piece of legislation. The Harrison Act was the beginning of what is truly America's longest war, the 105-plus year war on drugs. Make sure to tune in for the next episode because we discuss a lot of things about the war on drugs that may shock some listeners. Also stay tuned for the next episode because I discuss the DEA's reinvention of the agency with the OxyContin Action Plan in 2000, an effort that forever changed how doctors treat patients who live in chronic pain. Alright, before we get started on the main content for this episode, there is a little housekeeping to do. Please remember to rate and review this production on your podcast listening app of choice. While you're at it, rate and review us on Facebook. Each positive rating helps this podcast more than people realize, and we truly appreciate each and every listener who takes those extra steps. Visit us on social media, on Facebook at facebook.com/The Chronic Pain Survival Guide, on Twitter at A Chronic Pain Pod, Spreaker.com, SPREAKER.com, and search the site's podcasts for the keyword chronic pain. And finally on Patreon at patreon.com/chronic pain. Honestly, I'm taking down the patron portion of Patreon for now. Once I get with the program and I'm on pace to release these episodes consistently each week, I will revisit the patronage levels on Patreon. For now, one thing at a time. I will post show relative content on Patreon that is available to everyone, so it's worth checking out occasionally.
A Nation Overprescribed.
You know, I want to clarify something from last episode before I get into today's content. Many chronic pain patients do not encounter any feelings of euphoria that people associate with a quote-unquote high from opioid medication. Chronic pain rewires our brains. Opioids work differently on people who live in chronic pain. That fact alone made it even harder to understand my longtime friend's addiction to vodka and Vicodin. Of course, he was not in chronic pain and was instead abusing the medication. By the time it was clear he had a serious problem, we had been friends for almost 30 years, since first grade in elementary school, believe it or not. I tried to help him countless times. Once, after he had a serious breakdown, I spent several days calling every rehab center within 60 miles just to find one that would take him without insurance. The effort was wasted. Like always, once he sobered up, the promise to try and stay sober went out the window and he was back to popping pills while he figured out how to get his next bottle of vodka. I lost my friend to addiction. He passed away almost 10 years ago. He abused opioid pain medication and was not a chronic pain patient. I'm not sure what was worse, losing him to something so stupid, something so preventable, or watching him go down in flames as he refused any outside help. It was incredibly frustrating and terribly sad. In the first episode of the Chronic Pain Survival Guide, it may have seemed like I was cheerleading for opioids. I was not. Instead, I was drawing the connection between unofficially criminalizing opioid pain medications and essentially criminalizing chronic pain in the process. There are countless pain patients who would actually experience better results from non-opioid drugs and non-drug alternatives, but there is also no reason whatsoever to punish them with cold turkey withdrawals for taking a medication that was prescribed to them by a doctor. In many cases, viable alternatives to opioids were never provided to the patient, much less suggested. Nevertheless, I am no cheerleader for opioids. I believe that in most cases, the risks far outweigh the rewards. "60% of American citizens are drugged." Americans have been conditioned to believe that medication is the answer to everything, even when not necessary. I found it shocking to learn that more adults in this country are taking a prescription medication than not. On November 3, 2015, a study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association reported that 59% of adult Americans were taking a prescription medication of some type. 60% of adults 20 and up are on at least one prescription medication, not to mention the over-the-counter drugs and supplements that are also added to the mix by many people. The study also showed that people taking 5 prescription drugs or more, known as polypharmacy, nearly doubled from 2000 to 2012, growing from 8% to 15% of Americans. According to the Journal of the American Medical Association on November 17, 2017, polypharmacy occurs when a person is taking many different medications at the same time. This often happens when a person has many chronic diseases, such as diabetes, high blood pressure, heart failure, osteoporosis, and/or symptoms such as pain or insomnia, requiring long-term treatment with medications. Chronic diseases and symptoms accumulate with age. For this reason, older adults are at higher risk of polypharmacy. What are the risks of polypharmacy? The use of many different medications at the same time can lead to mistakes in storing or taking them correctly. Clinicians may not know what medications their patients are taking, leading to prescribing errors. For example, the same type of medication might be prescribed twice. A medication might not work well when used with other medications that interfere with its effect. That is known as a drug-drug interaction. A medication used to treat a disease or symptom might have a negative effect on another disease or symptom. This is known as a disease-drug interaction. For example, anti-inflammatory medications, commonly used as painkillers, may increase blood pressure and worsen kidney function, and therefore should not be used by persons with high blood pressure or kidney problems. What should I do if I'm taking many medications? Always keep an accurate and updated list of the medications you are taking. This should include those prescribed by your doctor, over-the-counter drugs, herbal products, and supplements. Always keep the list with you and update it anytime your medication, prescriptions, or supplements change. Make sure your doctor knows all of the over-the-counter medications and supplements you are taking. Understand why you are taking the medications prescribed for you. Discuss with your doctor what side effects to look out for, and ask if any symptoms you may be having, for example, nausea, lightheadedness, clouded thinking, could be a medication side effect. If needed, consult websites and online documents reporting drug information. For example, U.S. National Library of Medicine's Medline Plus site at medlineplus.gov/druginformation.html. Again, that's Medline Plus, MEDLINE plus.gov/druginformation.html. Periodically discuss your medication regimens with your doctor. Ask if there are any medications you can do without. Some diseases or symptoms might worsen your health and quality of life, so treating them with appropriate medications is a priority. Other diseases or symptoms might have a limited effect on your health and quality of life. Therefore, some medications used in their treatment might be avoided. Getting family and caregivers involved is useful, especially if you have memory problems. Ask your doctor if there are any medicines you no longer need, and if lifestyle changes, for example, diet, physical activity, and weight loss, may help you discontinue some of your medications. Lastly, avoid suddenly stopping prescribed medications. If you have problems taking your medications correctly, discuss with your doctor the possibility of simplifying your medication regimen or choosing medications that you can take fewer times per day. If needed, use aids or tools to simplify medication use. For example, weekly or daily pill boxes. The elderly and those in chronic pain. The elderly are often affected by polypharmacy. According to the Washington Post's website, on December 9th, 2017, for decades, experts have warned that older Americans are taking too many unnecessary drugs, often prescribed by multiple doctors for dubious or unknown reasons. Researchers estimate that 25% of people ages 65 to 69 take at least 5 prescription drugs to treat chronic conditions. That 25% figure jumps to nearly 46% for those between the ages of 70 to 79. Doctors say it is not uncommon to encounter patients taking more than 20 drugs to treat acid reflux, heart disease, depression, insomnia, and other disorders. Unlike the overuse of opioid painkillers, the polypharmacy problem has attracted little attention, even though its hazards are well documented. Okay, so everyone in the country is taking drugs. Nearly 1 in 5 people are taking 5 medications or more, but these drugs are prescribed by a doctor in most cases. So is it really a problem that so many Americans are taking prescription medications? According to medical doctors and college professors, Robert L. Mayer, Joseph Hanlon, and Emily R. Hajar, on September 27, 2013, in 2005, it was estimated that over 4.3 million healthcare visits were attributed to adverse drug events, ADEs. It has been reported that up to 35% of outpatients and 40% of hospitalized elderly experience an ADE. Furthermore, approximately 10% of emergency room visits are attributed to an ADE. In a population-based study, outpatients taking 5 or more medications had an 88% increased risk of experiencing an ADE compared to those who were taking fewer medications. In nursing home residents, rates of ADEs have been noted to be twice as high in patients taking 9 or more medications compared to those taking less. Another study evaluating unplanned hospitalizations in older veterans found that a patient taking more than 5 medications was almost 4 times as likely to be hospitalized from ADE. As one might expect, common drug classes associated with ADEs include anticoagulants, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, cardiovascular medications, diuretics,